Some cars were born bad. They weren't just ugly or slow, they were complete disasters. Cars that stalled when you needed them most, designs so horrendous they looked like a dare gone wrong, engines that wheezed like dying animals, and worst of all, automakers somehow greenlit these nightmares, thinking people would actually buy them. But time had other plans. These 10 cars became legends for all the wrong reasons. Design flops, engineering disasters, and straight-up dangerous machines. Buckle up, because we're about to tour the junkyard of shame. These are the 10 worst cars ever made, and you won't believe who made the cut. What happens when you let a focus group design a car? You get the Pontiac Aztek, a confused, chunky, plastic-clad monstrosity that looked like a transformer mid-transformation. General Motors had high hopes for this crossover, pitching it as a bold step into the future. But it turned out to be a bold step into a brick wall. The proportions were awkward, the body panels looked glued on, and the interior screamed cheap rental car. Performance? An underpowered V6 paired with a clunky transmission that made acceleration feel like dragging a fridge uphill. The Aztek was so hated, even its novelty as Walter White's car in Breaking Bad couldn't save its reputation. The Yugo GV came from Yugoslavia and entered the American market with a price tag under $4,000. It was supposed to be the people's car. Instead, it became a punchline. With a design that looked like a melting shoebox and performance that made riding a tricycle seem thrilling, the Yugo was an embarrassment from start to finish. The build quality was horrific. Parts fell off, engines stalled randomly, and electrical issues were standard. Its poor crash safety and sluggish acceleration made it downright dangerous. Owning a Yugo wasn't just bad taste, it was a gamble with your dignity and sometimes your life. The Ford Pinto's legacy isn't just about bad design or poor performance, it's about corporate indifference to human life. The Pinto's rear-mounted fuel tank was prone to exploding upon rear impact, and Ford infamously decided it was cheaper to settle lawsuits than to fix them. The design was plain, the handling was sloppy, and the acceleration was dismal. But all of that pales in comparison to the explosive hazard it posed. Even in an era of low safety standards, the Pinto stood out as dangerously defective. It wasn't just a bad car, it was a scandal on wheels. Designed on a napkin, literally, the AMC Gremlin looked like someone took a normal car and chopped off the back with a machete. The proportions were bizarre, the styling was a mess, and the rear end seemed unfinished. Meant to compete with the growing compact market, the Gremlin suffered from an identity crisis. It was too small to be practical, too ugly to be cool, and too slow to be fun. Base models came with weak engines, and handling was sluggish and unpredictable. Combine that with cheap interiors and poor build quality, and you have a car that lives in design hell. The pride of East Germany, and a symbol of everything wrong with Soviet-era engineering. The Trabant 601 was built with a body made of Duroplast, a plastic and cotton mix, had no fuel gauge, and powered by a smoky two-stroke engine that sounded like a chainsaw. It produced less than 30 horsepower. 0 to 60? Not happening. It maxed out at around 60 miles per hour if you begged hard enough. Its design was laughably outdated, even in the 60s, yet it stayed in production for nearly 30 years. While it has a strange cult following today, it remains one of the worst performing and most outdated vehicles ever mass-produced. The Reliant Robin had 3 wheels, and that's not a compliment. The idea was to skirt around UK vehicle taxes and license requirements by building a 3-wheeled car. The result? A vehicle so unstable it became a rolling joke, literally. The Robin was famous for tipping over even in the most modest cornering maneuvers. It handled like a drunken unicycle. Add that to its fiberglass body, cramped interior, and terrible suspension, and it's no wonder it became the butt of countless Top Gear jokes. The Reliant Robin was less a car and more a comedic death trap on wheels. The PT Cruiser tried to be retro. What it ended up being was an overstyled mess. With its high roofline, stubby body, and cartoonish fenders, it looked like a 1930s gangster car mated with a microwave. Its interior was plasticky and dated, and despite the bold design, It offered no performance to back up the flare. The base engine was underpowered, the turbo version was unreliable, and the driving experience was mediocre at best. Chrysler tried to sell it as cool and unique, but it quickly became associated with midlife crises and poor decision-making. It aged poorly and it started bad. You don't need to be a car designer to see what's wrong with the Fiat Multipla. One glance is enough to make you flinch. The bulbous double-decker headlights, the squat wide body, the awkward stance, it looked like a frog trying to wear sunglasses. Yet beneath that abomination of design was actually a clever family car, with 3 front seats and loads of space. But that didn't matter. It was universally mocked for its looks, and sales suffered despite its practicality. Performance was mediocre and reliability was spotty. It's a case study in how design alone can destroy a car's future. The Suzuki X90 was a bizarre 2-door SUV coupe that looked like it didn't decide whether it was a toy or a real vehicle. With a Targa top, tiny body, and strange profile, it offered the worst of both worlds. No utility and no performance. It had a weak 1.6-liter engine, an awkward high center of gravity, and handling that made you question basic physics. It also only seated 2, which made it a useless SUV. No one asked for a sporty micro SUV coupe, and Suzuki answered anyway. Unsurprisingly, it was pulled from production after just 2 years due to poor sales and mockery. The Cadillac Cimarron is what happens when you slap a luxury badge on a cheap economy car and pray no one notices. Based on the Chevy Cavalier, the Cimarron was GM's desperate attempt to compete with BMW and Mercedes in the luxury compact segment. The problem? It didn't upgrade anything meaningful. Same weak engines, same cheap interiors, same basic handling, but double the price. Cadillac loyalists were appalled, and new buyers weren't fooled. The Cimarron damaged Cadillac's reputation for years, symbolizing everything wrong with badge engineering. It wasn't just a bad car, it was an identity crisis on wheels.